guys, welcome to the world's worst children. Now I bet a lot of you will know this, but I don't think a lot of you will. So, I think you're going to like this one. Today, we're going to read Brian Wong, who was never, ever, 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 ever wrong. Many years ago, there lived a boy named Brian Wong. Wong was a total and utter swot. Not only was he the swattiest swot who ever swatted, he had to be right about everything. Brian Wong, who is never ever wrong, he would exclaim, much to the annoyance of everyone around him. The boy's favourite subject was mathematics. His favourite pastime was working out what looked like impossible sums and equations. Even if he didn't have any maths homework, Wong would set himself some. This is like an impossible sum, just don't read that. These he did with ease. All Wong's evenings, weekends and holidays he would be spent working out hundreds of answers to incredibly complicated equations. Equations that would leave even his cleverest teachers scratching their heads. As a result of all of this maths, and yet more maths, Brian rarely saw daylight and was a rather pale child. And working out equations until long into the night had weakened his eyesight, so he wore wire-framed glasses with lenses so thick that they magnified his eyes to the size of tennis balls. So as you can see, Wong prided himself on being a mathematical genius and cleverer than anyone around him. Every single answer Wong would get right. Despite this, what the boy most feared was the thought that one day he might be proved wrong. This is the story of that day. It was a Monday morning and Brian was at his school in his favourite lesson, maths. As he stood at the front of the classroom, the old maths teacher, Mr. Shrewdly, addressed his pupils. One thing you must always remember, boys and girls, is that numbers are infinite. What does infinite mean, sir? asked a girl at the back. Brian Wong, who was sitting right at the front of the class, tutted loudly. Tut, tut, tut. The boy tutted anyone who he considered not as clever as him, which was everyone. That is a good question, replied the teacher, giving Wong a stern sideways glance. Because you can always add one to any number, they go on forever. They are therefore infinite. The children all looked around at each other, attempting to grasp this idea. Now, I want you to think of the biggest number you can, continued the teacher. Lots of eager little hands shot up. Why? That's the picture. So there's Mr. Shrewdly and the pupils. "A million!" said one boy. "A billion!" shouted another, knit and sigh. "A trillion!" called out Kenneth Chan. "A trillion, trillion, trillion!" announced Francis Francois behind him, in a triumphant tone. Surely no one can think of a bigger number than that. The teacher was most amused by his pupils' efforts. "Ha ha! Very good, children, very good. But can anyone top a trillion and trillion trillion?" Wong thought for a moment. "A trillion, trillion, trillion and one." "Good answer, Wong," announced Mr. Shrewdly, as the class groaned in annoyance. The swot had struck again. "Now, can anyone top a trillion, trillion, trillion and one?" "I can," replied Wong. "A trillion, trillion, trillion and two." "A trillion, trillion, trillion and two indeed. Now, can anyone top that?" asked the teacher. "I can," replied Wong. "A trillion, trillion, trillion and three." Yes, well done, Wong. Thank you, Wong." Yes, well done. Thank you, Wong." So, moving on. To the point I am trying to make is a trillion, trillion, trillion and four. Yes, that's quite enough now, Wong." The normally mild-mannered teacher was becoming irritated. "A trillion, trillion, trillion and—" "Please be quiet, Wong!" shouted Mr. Shrewdly. Silence descended on the classroom. "Thank you," The teacher was shocked by his own outburst, but quickly gathered his thoughts. As I was about to say, this shows you that numbers are endless because you can always add one. Therefore, try as you might, no one can ever count to infinity. Not even you, Brian Wong. There was a pause for a moment as the class took this in. Wong looked at the teacher, his goggly glasses enlarging his eyes to the size of cymbals. The boy blinked and announced, I can. Wait, I can. All the other children in the class laughed. Settle down, please. Mr. Shrewdly tried to quieten them before turning back to Brian. This may be the first time in your life you've heard this, but you are wrong, Wong. Brian Wong is never, ever wrong, replied the boy with great certainty. Mr. Shrewdly shook his head and said, This time Brian Wong is very wrong. No one can count to infinity. Not any of the great thinkers in the world. No one, not even you. Wong had never been wrong in his life, and he was not going to start now. This was the moment he began his doomed mission. A mission that would change the course of his life forever. Brian Wong is never, ever wrong, insisted the boy. I am a genius, and therefore I can count to infinity. I can! Go on then, shouted Chan from the back of the class. Yes, joined in the other pupils. Even the normally sensible Mr. Shrewdly felt inclined to egg the swot on. By now they all wanted the same thing, to prove Wong wrong. We are waiting, announced the teacher with a wink to the rest of the class. Wong briefly cleared his throat and then began. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There were gales of laughter from the other children in the class. Wong really was going to try to count to infinity, just so he wouldn't be proved wrong. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, continued Wong. The class could not believe he was really going through with it. 273, 274, 275. On and on went Wong until the bell clanged for the end of the lesson. Ring! 4:30! Ring! Thank you very much, Wong. You can stop now, announced Mr. Shrewdly with a chuckle. 274, 275, 100, 273. Numbers are everywhere, guys. But the teacher underestimated Wong. This was a matter of pride for the boy. He was not going to stop until he reached infinity. 276, 277, 278. There's 629 here. 480, 542. Brian strode out of the classroom, still counting, as Mr. Shrewdly shook his head in disbelief. How long would Wong keep this up? 359, 36, 108. Numbers are flying everywhere, guys. The boy counted all the way through break time, then through some more lessons, even including PE, then through lunchtime, then through some more lessons before the bell clanged for the one last time for the end of the school day. Ring! 699. As Wong marched out of the school gate, he carried on counting. By this time, he had reached the high thousands. 9,736, 9,737. As the other boys laughed at Wong at the bus stop, Chan felt a pang of guilt. He tapped his classmate on the shoulder and said, "Come on, Wong, let's get an ice cream. This is stupid." A furious look crossed Wong's face. "You have made me lose my count!" he ragged. "Now I have to go back to the beginning. But Wong!" 1, 2, 3. When he returned home, Wong counted all through his dinner. 30,609, 30,610, 1,112, and bath time. When he went to bed, he wrote down the last number when Wong went to bed, he wrote down the last number he had counted on a piece of paper. That this is not in the book, but I'm saying that number was 48,392. That way he could start again as soon as he woke up with 48,393, which he did. All through the next day and the next day and the next, Brian Wong counted and counted and counted. Soon he had reached the millions, and after a couple of years, the billions. When he reached a trillion, he felt it was too late to stop now, so he carried on to the zillions. 2,603, 8,000,1,090, 1,000,2,301, 1,603, 3,002,300, 5,001,1,001. People from surrounding villages and towns would often come to watch Wong's never-ending tasks. They called him Counting Boy, but in time they had to change that to Counting Man as he grew older. His hair was turning grey. He had to put even thicker lenses in his glasses, so now his eyes were the size of footballs. But still, Wong would not be proved wrong. He was going to count to infinity if it was the last thing he did. Even when his maths teacher, Mr. Shrewdly, died of old age at 103, Wong refused to stop. 9 gazillion, 780 zillion, 40 trillion, 380 billion, 92 million, 400,502. The numbers were becoming quite a mouthful. As time passed, Wong became an old man. He had been counting on non-stop for 60 years. He had a long flowing beard at the length of an elephant's trunk. Yet, still, he kept counting. As long as he kept counting, Wong thought he could not be proved wrong. 11 gazillion, 990 zillion, 1,160 million, 603. Finally, one night, Brian Wong was lying in his deathbed. He was now 111 years old and life was slipping away from him. Yet he was still counting, hoping that somehow the next number might just be infinity. Though it never ever was. 12 gazillion, zillion, trillion, billion, million, and 3. 12 gazillion, zillion, trillion, billion, million, and 4. His old classmate, Kenneth Chan, came to visit him one last time. Wong was fading fast. Chan perched on the edge of Wong's bed and said, You don't have long left, my friend. Perhaps it's time to stop counting and enjoy the last few moments of life you have left. Wong looked Chan straight in the eye, an expression of extreme annoyance on his face. You stupid fool! You made me lose my count again! Now I have to start back at the beginning. Wong, no! Pleaded Chan. 1, 2, 3, Wong began. Of course, Brian Wong never did reach infinity. However, just as he could not prove that the number infinity existed, no one else could prove that it didn't. Wong died with a smile on his face. He had wasted his entire life counting, but what was much more important to him was that he had not been proved wrong. On his gravestone it read, "Here lies Brian Wong, who was never, ever, 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 ever wrong," especially not about the whole counting to infinity thing. That's the end of Brian Wong. Hope you liked it.